The kamikaze, meaning divine wind, were suicide pilots employed by the Japanese Empire during the final stages of World War II in a desperate attempt to slow down or repel the overwhelming advances of Allied forces, particularly the United States Navy in the Pacific theater. The name itself is rooted in Japanese historical mythology, referring to the typhoons that supposedly destroyed Mongol invasion fleets in 1274 and 1281, saving Japan from conquest. In the context of World War II, this term was repurposed to symbolize an act of self-sacrifice in defense of the nation, now facing encirclement and bombardment after a series of catastrophic defeats. By mid-1944, Japan's industrial and naval capabilities were severely weakened, its experienced pilots decimated, and its military command increasingly desperate for unconventional methods to slow down the Allied momentum. The kamikaze tactic emerged as a last-ditch effort promoted by Vice Admiral Takejiro Onishi, who believed that deliberately sacrificing pilots and planes could cause enough damage to demoralize the enemy and potentially shift the course of the war. Kamikaze pilots flew various aircraft types, including obsolete fighters like the Mitsubishi Zero, repurposed bombers, and even specially designed suicide planes such as the Yokosuka MXY-7 Oka, a rocket-powered, manned flying bomb carried under a bomber and released close to enemy ships. The Oka was essentially a human-guided missile with no landing gear or ejection system, ensuring the pilot's death. Some kamikaze squadrons were composed of volunteers, while others were formed through coercion, with young cadets pressured into service by officers, social expectations, and patriotic indoctrination. These pilots typically ranged in age from 17 to 25, often students from elite universities who had been drafted as Japan exhausted its manpower. Before their missions, they would participate in elaborate farewell ceremonies where they received sashes, hachimaki, headbands, and cups of ceremonial sake. They wrote last letters and death poems to their families, often invoking images of cherry blossoms, traditional Japanese symbols of ephemeral beauty and sacrifice. Strategically, kamikaze attacks were first used on a large scale during the Battle of Leyte Gulf in the Philippines in October 1944, where they achieved significant damage, sinking several American ships and damaging many others. Over the next several months, particularly during the Battle of Okinawa in 1945, kamikaze missions intensified. More than 1,500 such attacks were carried out during Okinawa alone, in what became the largest and deadliest campaign of their use. Despite their effectiveness in some instances, such as damaging the USS Bunker Hill, USS Enterprise, and USS Franklin, the overall impact of the kamikaze strategy was insufficient to alter the strategic balance. Allied forces adapted by reinforcing anti-aircraft defenses, improving radar systems, and increasing the use of combat air patrols to intercept the suicide planes before they reached their targets. In total, it is estimated that over 3,800 kamikaze pilots died in these missions, killing or wounding over 15,000 Allied naval personnel and damaging or sinking more than 350 ships. The psychological effect on Allied sailors was profound. Knowing that incoming aircraft were piloted by individuals who did not intend to return created a unique and terrifying form of warfare. On the Japanese side, the government and media glorified the kamikaze as embodiments of ultimate patriotism and loyalty, portraying them as selfless defenders of the homeland. However, many survivors and historians later revealed the darker side, the emotional manipulation, the lack of choice, and the youth of the men involved, many of whom faced internal struggles, breakdowns, and confusion about their fate. After the war, the legacy of the kamikaze became a topic of intense reflection in Japan. Monuments, museums, and collections of last letters and poems were created to honor the pilots, such as at the Chiran Peace Museum in southern Japan, where many missions originated. The narrative shifted over time, from glorification to mourning, with a greater recognition of the tragedy and human cost involved. Today, the kamikaze are remembered not only as a symbol of extreme sacrifice but also as victims of a militarist ideology that demanded death over surrender. Their story continues to evoke a wide range of emotions: honor, grief, controversy, and a solemn reminder of the devastating consequences of war.